Have you ever noticed how dogs seem to sense things that humans simply can't? Sometimes it's just a bark at a shadow or a growl at an empty corner. But what if, one day, that instinct was the very thing that saved lives? This story begins with silence, the kind of silence that weighs heavy on a family's heart. Two sisters vanish without a trace. Their laughter, their voices, their footsteps gone. Search teams spread across town. Posters plaster the walls. Neighbors whisper prayers. But day after day, there's nothing. No clues. No answers. Just fear growing louder with each passing hour. And then comes Hunter, a German Shepherd canine, loyal, sharp, relentless. On what seemed like an ordinary patrol, he stops. He freezes in his tracks, ears high, body tense, staring at an old house everyone else had long forgotten. His handler tries to move him forward, but Hunter won't budge. His growl cuts through the night, warning of something no one else can see. At first, it seems like just another empty building. But as the world would soon discover, beneath those cracked walls and rotting floors lay a secret so chilling, so heartbreaking, that it would change everything. And if not for Hunter, two little girls may have never come home. It started like any other summer evening. The two sisters, Emily, just 10 years old, and her younger sister Lily, only 8, were playing in their neighborhood. Their laughter echoed through the street, their bicycles leaned against the curb, and the warm glow of sunset painted the sky. But when the sun dipped below the horizon and their parents called them in for dinner, the street was quiet. Too quiet. The bikes were still there. The girls were not. At first, no one panicked. Maybe they'd gone to a friend's house. Maybe they lost track of time. But minutes stretched into hours, and the hours stretched into night. By midnight, every parent's worst fear had set in. Emily and Lily were missing. The police were called. Flashlights swept through woods, fields, and alleys. Volunteers combed every corner of the neighborhood, calling their names into the darkness. Flyers were printed, taped to every post, every store window. Mothers clutched their own children tighter. Fathers stood on porches with worried eyes, and the entire town seemed to hold its breath. Days passed, but there was nothing. No footprints, no clues, no trace of where the sisters had gone. Each night, their mother sat on the porch steps, staring down the street, whispering their names into the wind as if it might carry her voice to them. And just when hope seemed ready to fade completely, fate placed a loyal German shepherd named Hunter on a path no one else had thought to follow. Hunter wasn't just any German shepherd. He had been trained from a young age as part of the canine unit, a dog whose instincts, discipline, and loyalty were unmatched. With his dark brown and black coat, sharp eyes, and a presence that demanded respect, Hunter was the kind of partner every officer dreamed of having by their side. But beyond his training, what set Hunter apart was his heart. He had this way of sensing not just danger, but emotion. His handler, Officer Reynolds, often joked that Hunter could read people better than most humans could. If someone was nervous, Hunter knew. If someone was afraid, Hunter could smell it in the air. And when someone was in trouble, Hunter never turned away. Over the years, he had helped track down criminals, find missing persons, and even sniff out hidden dangers before anyone else noticed. But as loyal and successful as he had been, nothing could prepare him, or his handler, for the case that was about to unfold. It was a late evening patrol when Hunter's life-saving instincts would be tested in a way no one could have imagined. The streets were quiet, the night heavy, when he suddenly froze in his tracks. His ears pricked forward, his muscles stiffened, and his gaze locked on something in the distance. Officer Reynolds followed his line of sight, frowning. And there it was, an old house, crumbling, forgotten, tucked away at the edge of town. A place no one paid attention to anymore. But Hunter saw it differently. To him, it wasn't just another abandoned building. To him, it was alive, with a secret waiting to be uncovered. The house sat like a scar at the edge of town, where the streetlights faded and the pavement turned to gravel. Its walls were cracked, its roof sagging, and the windows, once bright and welcoming, now stood shattered, like hollow eyes staring back at anyone who dared to look too long. For years, people whispered about it. Children dared each other to step onto the porch. only to run away screaming at the creak of the old wood. Neighbors swore they sometimes heard strange sounds at night, soft thuds, faint whispers, but no one dared to investigate. To most, it was nothing more than an abandoned shell, a place best left alone. But not to Hunter. The moment his eyes fixed on that crumbling frame, his entire body stiffened. He lowered his head, sniffed the air, and released a low growl that sent chills up his handler's spine. To Officer Reynolds, the house looked empty, lifeless. But to Hunter, it pulsed with something hidden, something wrong. Reynolds tugged at the leash, urging his partner forward, but Hunter refused. Instead, he planted his paws firmly against the ground, his gaze locked on the darkened windows as though he could see right through them. His growl grew louder, sharper, his body trembling with restless energy. Reynolds frowned. This wasn't normal curiosity. He had worked with Hunter long enough to recognize the signs. The dog wasn't just interested, he was warning. Something inside that house wasn't right. And while Reynolds couldn't yet see it, the truth was waiting, buried deep beneath those rotting floors. Hunter's growl deepened into sharp, urgent barks that echoed across the empty street. His body lunged forward, muscles straining against the leash, as if an invisible force was pulling him toward the old house. Officer Reynolds tightened his grip. Easy, boy, easy. But Hunter wasn't listening. His ears flicked back, his nose twitched rapidly, and every fiber of his being screamed danger. He scratched at the ground near the fence, claws scraping the wood, then jumped up against the gate, barking with a desperation Reynolds had never seen before. Reynolds hesitated. From where he stood, the house looked like nothing more than rotting wood and broken glass. He'd passed it dozens of times before. Empty, forgotten, dead. But Hunter's instincts had never failed him, not once. The officer glanced around. The street was deserted, the night eerily still, save for the sharp echo of Hunter's barks. A chill prickled across his skin. Something inside that house had his partner on edge, and Reynolds knew better than to ignore him. He unclipped the leash. Hunter bolted forward instantly, circling the house, nose pressed low, tail stiff. He stopped at one of the boarded windows, pressing his paws against the wall, whining now instead of growling, like he was pleading to be heard. And then, Reynolds heard it too. Faint, barely there, but unmistakable. A sound that didn't belong in an abandoned house. A muffled cry. Reynolds froze, his heart hammering in his chest. Hunter turned back toward him, eyes sharp, as if to say, "Do you hear it now?" Reynolds held his breath, straining his ears. At first, it was faint, so faint he thought his mind might be playing tricks on him. But then it came again, a soft, trembling whimper, followed by the creak of movement from somewhere deep inside the house. Hunter barked furiously, scratching at the boards that sealed the window. The sound was urgent, desperate. Reynolds stepped closer, shining his flashlight through a crack. Dust floated like tiny ghosts in the beam. The air smelled stale, damp, but underneath it was something sharper, fresher, almost like sweat. He crouched down, scanning the dirt along the base of the house, and froze. Footprints. Not old, not faded. Fresh. Leading right up to the side of the building, pressed into the soft earth as though made within the last day. His throat tightened. Reynolds whispered into his radio, his voice low but firm. "Dispatch, this is Unit 7. I need backup at the old Harrington property. Possible signs of movement inside." Static crackled, followed by the dispatcher's calm reply. Reinforcements were on the way, but Hunter wasn't waiting. He darted around to the back of the house, nose pressed to the ground, whining loudly. Reynolds followed quickly, his flashlight sweeping over broken boards, sagging walls, and a back door barely clinging to its hinges. Then Hunter stopped. He pawed at the ground near the foundation, his body trembling with intensity. Reynolds pointed the light downward and saw it, small scratches in the dirt, like someone had been dragged. Every instinct told him this wasn't just an abandoned house. Someone had been here. Maybe they still were. And deep in his gut, Reynolds knew. This was where the missing sister's trail had led. Backup arrived within minutes, but to Reynolds, it felt like hours. The moment 2 additional officers pulled up, Hunter lunged at the back door again, barking so fiercely that everyone felt the urgency in their bones. "All right," Reynolds said, steadying his breath. "We're going in." The officers pushed the door open. It groaned on rusty hinges, releasing a wave of musty air thick with mold and decay. The beam of their flashlights cut through the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and floorboards that creaked with every cautious step. Hunter moved first, his nose low, his ears sharp. He led them through the narrow hallway, past collapsed ceilings and shattered glass. His tail was stiff, his growls constant. Then he stopped. At the far end of the house was a trapdoor, half hidden beneath a tattered rug. Hunter pawed at it frantically, barking, his body trembling with urgency. Reynolds rushed forward, pulling the rug aside. The wooden door was old, splintered, secured with a heavy lock. He motioned for one of the officers, who swung his crowbar down with force. The lock snapped, and the door creaked open, releasing a draft of cold, stale air. Hunter shoved his head inside first, sniffing deeply, before letting out a sound no one had ever heard from him before, a cry. The beam of a flashlight followed, cutting through the darkness. And there, huddled in the shadows of the underground cellar, were two small figures. Emily, Lily. Their eyes were wide, faces streaked with tears, clothes dirty and torn. They clung to each other, trembling, but alive. Reynolds' breath caught in his chest. Relief flooded through him so strongly it nearly knocked him to his knees. But before he could move forward, Hunter growled again, low, sharp, and dangerous. His eyes weren't on the girls anymore. They were fixed on the far corner of the cellar. Someone else was down there. Reynolds froze, heart hammering in his chest, as his flashlight beam swept across the far corner of the cellar. Shadows shifted, and there, crouched among the debris, was a man, wild-eyed, desperate, and dangerous. Hunter's growl erupted again, sharper and louder this time. He stepped forward, positioning himself between the sisters and the intruder, hackles raised, teeth bared. Every muscle in his body screamed warning, "Stay back." The man lunged, but Hunter was ready. With precision and courage, he intercepted, forcing the intruder back against the wall. Reynolds and the other officers rushed in, restrained the man, and secured him. The girls clung to each other, sobbing, trembling, but safe. Hunter stayed close, nudging them gently with his snout, letting them know they were protected. His presence was more comforting than words ever could be. Reynolds knelt down, brushing Emily's hair from her tear-streaked face. "You're safe now," he whispered. "It's over." The sisters' mother and father, rushed to the scene moments later, collapsed into the arms of their children, tears mingling with laughter and disbelief. Hunter stayed near them, calm, vigilant, his job done, but his heart still connected to the little girls he had saved. It wasn't just a rescue, it was a message. Courage and loyalty, even in the face of darkness, could protect the most vulnerable. And sometimes, the bravest hero doesn't carry a badge. He walks on four legs, guided by instinct and an unwavering heart. The news spread quickly. By morning, the quiet town was buzzing with disbelief and relief. Missing sisters found alive. Headlines described the daring rescue, the abandoned house, and the German shepherd who led the officers to safety. Neighbors gathered, whispering, pointing at the house that had once been a place of fear. Parents clutched their own children tighter, grateful that Emily and Lily had returned safely. The town had faced an unspeakable nightmare, but now, hope had been restored. Hunter became the center of attention, though he didn't seem to notice. Cameras flashed as reporters called him a hero, but all he did was sit calmly beside Officer Reynolds, ears alert, eyes watchful, as if he was still scanning for danger. The sister's mother pressed her hand to Hunter's head, tears flowing freely. "You saved my girls," she whispered. Hunter wagged his tail slightly, as though acknowledging her words, but his focus never left the safety of the girls. The old house, once a symbol of fear and decay, was now a place remembered for courage, loyalty, and survival. And in the hearts of everyone involved, the lesson was clear. Heroes come in all shapes and sizes. Sometimes they walk on two legs. Sometimes they walk on four. The town would never forget the night Emily and Lily were brought back from darkness, and the dog who refused to look away. Hunter's courage wasn't just about strength or training. It was about instinct, loyalty, and a heart that never ignored a cry for help. Think about it. How many times do we walk past warnings in our own lives? How often do we ignore that small feeling, that quiet voice, that instinct telling us something isn't right? Hunter didn't ignore it. He didn't turn away. He acted. And because of that, two little girls were brought back to their family safely. It's a reminder that heroes don't always wear uniforms or carry weapons. Sometimes they have four legs, sharp eyes, and a heart big enough to hold courage, love, and loyalty all at once. And there's something deeper here too. The sisters didn't just find safety, they found comfort. When Hunter stayed close, nudging them gently, he gave them more than protection. He gave them hope, trust, and the quiet assurance that someone was there to keep them safe. The lesson is simple, but powerful. Sometimes, life's most important signs are quiet. Sometimes, courage doesn't roar. And sometimes, the bravest acts of love and loyalty come from the most unexpected places.